switch over to my actual bookcase.
There you go.
No, actually, that's not my actual bookcase. Where's my actual bookcase?
So can you guys hear me okay? This is Lou.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. I have too much stuff going on this computer. I was getting a lot of feedback and all sorts of stuff. So I think I'm
Jeremy,
okay.
can I share the screen? I can show you that strip line. Kind of interesting anyway.
Yeah, let me make, I might have to allow you to share.
Oh, please do.
There you go. Okay.
So much for professional courtesy between college professors.
Not anymore. I'm retired. Can you see this on the screen?
Not yet.
No, wait, not yet. I didn't get in there. Let's see, share, start sharing. It's kind of an interesting design. It's called a strip line design. Here it is. So basically it's all passive. It's just these strips on a printed circuit board. They do have the 2-meter version. Here's a 2-meter version, $20.
Is that stiff enough that if the antenna is on the end of it, it's not going to bend
Yeah,
it?
it's a G10 PCB. So it's not, I mean, you have to like stand on it to break it. I do have this one. I just missed it on the website. So $20 for the 2-meter version. And the bandpass response is pretty damn good. Obviously cut for the band, that kind of stuff. It's interesting that all passive components, no RLs or C anywhere, just strips of copper on top of a substrate, and that's all you need. And as long as you know how to make the dimensions, this is what it looks like. So it's pretty good.
It's sort of like a waveguide, but it seems awfully small for that.
It's not a waveguide in principle. It's a transmission line is what it is. And it's designed to basically act as a parallel notch filter. You could build it out of coax, but it won't be as good as this. This thing has, let's see, I can't quite read it here. But, here's the notch. How do I know about that? Well, it's right here. It's in my book. My book, which has been almost 3.5 years in fruition. This is a software-defined radio that Analog Devices built. And it has not only the fundamental on 2 meters, but it has some very bad harmonics, doesn't meet FCC specs. So you stick a filter like this on that, and it really cleans it up. I think you'd find the performance to really go through be much better, Jeremy, quite honest. It's worth it, worth a little try. But it's not a waveguide because it has transmission line characteristic. It has wires. So there you go.
I wonder if those could be useful when we're operating around Radnor for public service.
Well, again,
sometimes we get our front ends overloaded by whatever taxi.
Yeah, well, I can loan you the one I have. If you want to try it sometime. The only problem with it is it has those SMA connectors, but that's not the biggest problem.
But for HTs,
this is the 441 here.
Then I guess you have to know whether you're doing Baofeng or regular, because they do reverse genders on the SMA.
You can just get a coupler and change it too.
Couplers will probably cost you more than the filter.
A whole bag of them if you need one, Jeremy.
It looks like we got another viewer joining us on YouTube. Does someone want to be added as a co-host? Just to help with letting people in.
I'll take it if you want.
Okay, I'll add you. Hey, Fred, welcome.
Is my microphone live?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. That blocking that sound, that frequency.
You were talking about ways just of eliminating, if you're getting front end overload on an HT, from some cab company or something at 150 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
The cover of QST for August this month, it talks about ham ingenuity and shows somebody who built a vertical out of fruit juice cans. But back in the day, we used to build cavity resonators to keep 6 meters relatively clean using high C fruit juice. You have to use high C fruit juice, 'cause that was the important thing. Sit there and solder them together and that kind of stuff. I wish I still had mine. It was about 4 feet high.
Years ago, they used to have beer can verticals. When
Yeah,
the
that's what's on the cover of Q Street this month, actually.
Yeah, well, the beer cans used to be steel and you could solder them together.
Yeah.
And you got something else now because beer cans are aluminum.
Yeah.
The guy in QST used, I forget what he used, iced tea or something that does come in steel cans.
Yeah.
Italian coffee.
Coffee can,
Oh, okay.
Like the big Folgers cans,
yeah.
big ones. That would have pretty nice bandwidth too, with the big wide cans.
So if you made them out of even wider cans than that, you'd increase your bandwidth exponentially then.
All right, should we get started?
Sure.
All right, let me just start that. Get our little warning there. All right, so welcome everyone to the July 2021 meeting of the Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club. So I'm Jeremy, N2ZLQ. I'm the club president. So as we normally do, we'll go around with a round of introductions. So let's see, if the final letter of your call sign is Alpha through Foxtrot, you check in now. A through F. All right, how about golf through Mike?
Rich, KB3VZL.
Blue WX3I.
Kilo 2 Hotel Alpha, Fred.
Welcome.
83 FM.
And anybody else? All call
W-
signs.
W3JNF, Jim.
And W3ZQN, Bob.
And WQ3Z, I'm making the machine.
You are indeed. All right, and if anyone on YouTube wants to check in, you can type your call in there and we'll acknowledge you on air. All right, so welcome everybody. So as we'll normally start, I'll have the treasurer's report from Lou, WX3I.
Okay. Well, after the Hamfest, which was pretty successful, and unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers here, but we did well on the Hamfest. So we now have $19,769.62. Give me a second and I'll find the numbers. And we also have 84 members on the books as of today. Give me a second to find the numbers. Sorry, I didn't have them queued up. Okay, so our net right now is $2,871.67. We're still expecting a few more expenses to come in, but all in all, we did really well.
So we made $2,000.
Well, no, almost
Those three.
Almost 3, yeah.
almost 3, depending on some expenses that drag in. So a couple $100 in expenses probably.
And that
So-
includes the $1,000 to the fire company. So we made like
Yes.
well over $3,000.
Yep.
All right, thanks. So yeah, so membership sounds good, and we're glad the Hamfest went really well. Thanks to the leadership of Bob, N3JIZ, and really getting that off the ground. All right, so given the program tonight, I'm going to go a little bit out of order and talk about some things So first I'll give an update on programs. So normally we do take a month off in the summer. Usually it would be either June or July, but this year, why don't we make it August, since we've had a pretty busy summer so far. So August, we'll take the month off, and then we'll resume with meetings in September. As of right now, things are wide open because I talked to our contact at Paoli Hospital, and unfortunately that room is going to be unavailable to us until at least the end of the year. So we're currently looking at some other options. If anyone has any leads, if you know of any sites that might be available, if you have any contacts or any connections, please let me know, because we'd definitely be interested in finding certainly a short-term site and maybe something long-term as well, if that is something that works out really well. Of course, we're also looking at COVID case numbers, and we may be looking at another round of restrictions depending on how things go. So we're considering some backups. I would say at a minimum, we would plan to continue doing the Zoom meetings here. We're hoping to have public service events coming up in the fall, so there will be some opportunities to get together. And we're also thinking about clipboards will be back. They're right behind Bob. And we're also thinking about some options for outdoor events, which we may be able to do as well. If it's, things are a little iffy for an indoor meeting, maybe we can do some outdoor events, some operating events. So one of the specific ideas I had was to set up a club station for the PA QSO party, which is, I think it's October 10 to 11 this year. Maybe something down in Delaware County, because that's one of the underrepresented counties in the party. So we may be able to work up some pileups if we come in from Delco. So that's something maybe we'll talk about during the course of the meeting, because we're going to be talking about Field Day and the Ham Fest, as well as plans for next year. All right, so as far as programs go, we're still a little bit up in the air. So we're not sure where we'll be meeting, but hopefully we'll know more in the next couple of weeks, maybe the next month or so. I think by then maybe we'll know whether we're headed into another round of shutdowns, or whether we'll be able to escape from all of this and maybe get to a little bit more normalcy, although not back to our usual site just yet. Okay. As far as nets go, Herb has been keeping a little bit of a closer eye on that lately than I have, but the nets are going quite well. We're generally getting about 10 to 15 check-ins each time, so it's not too many people checking in, which means that you get some time to talk amongst yourselves. There's always a topic or a question of the evening, and those nets are Wednesday and Sunday evenings at 8:30 p.m. We also have kind of an informal drive time net for those who don't know. It's been Bob, N3, JIZ, and a couple of other folks. And that's been weekdays at 4 o'clock. There's no net control. There's no set topic or anything like that. But if you're just looking for someone to talk to, if you're figuring out when to put your call out on the air and be more likely to get a response, try around 4 or 4:30 on weekdays, because usually there's somebody on there. So that's nets. All right, so next up, let's go to public service. So Bob, do you have any updates for public service?
Okay. Yeah, we're sort of in the process of trying to get the events lined up. The event sequence will probably go the Charles Bender swim that's put on by the French Creek running group. That's going to occur at the end of August. And then the Soul Harvest 5K will follow that in September, I believe it is. And then late October is the 5-mile Radnor run. And then finally the Vietnam Vets 5K run over in the Norristown Farm Park. So that's kind of the lineup, and we're going to hopefully have more information on that. There is not a MARC not a MARC event, but the MS 150 is gearing up this year, and so if anybody who's interested in signing up for that, I can get you the information on that. or you could also probably Google it, whichever. I wish we were in person. I could give you the forms that have the web address and all that, so you can either sign up on the web or use a form. But seeing that we're not quite there yet, looks like you'll have to search the web yourself.
Do you know how to find that? Do you just look up MS 150?
Yeah,
It shows up. Okay.
yeah, just like Google that, and then it should take you right there. So that's pretty much the fall public service season as it stands. So
Okay.
more information to follow.
All right. So are these events confirmed that they're on, or?
We'll probably get that information, within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Sounds good. So hopefully we'll have a full public service schedule. So we're getting back to a little bit of normalcy here. Okay. Let's see. How about Dennis? Any updates from technical committee?
Hey, well, we did do stop by on 14736 in Darby, which is the DR1X Yaesu repeater running actually an automatic mode selection. So if you have a Yaesu Fusion transmitter, you can actually use digital there. If you want to play around with that with someone else, because it is capable of switching over from analog to digital. But there was a squelch problem, and that's been tightened up slightly. So of course, when you tighten the squelch, that means you don't get in with your wet noodle antenna unless you're closed and stuff like that. In fact, now that the squelch is tight, I can't hit it from my driveway with the mobile antenna. So there you go.
Yeah, you're talking about me again.
Okay, so that's Darby. Now we have some things going on at Paoli. I'm addressing the fact that we're going to be replacing the first out of the box DR1 that we got from Yaesu. I looked it up. It's hard to believe, 6 years ago, which has been sitting there on UHF. It replaced an analog machine. And we have a DR1X, which we're going to replace it with, which is going to be interfaced to the 145.13 analog. Now I've got big plans here, and we'll see how this works out. And it's to try to do a shot in the arm to make our repeater systems a little bit more than sort of the prosaic linked analog repeaters. We do have, as I said, the digital capabilities. The hospitals, Paoli, Newtown Square, not a hospital, but also Fitzgerald down at Darby. Nobody wants to give us internet access. So I'm trying to see if we can get wireless internet access in some manner, and more importantly, how much it costs. As a stopgap measure, I'm willing to take my second VHF UHF antenna and what's called the HRI 200, which is the Wires X interface box, set up an active node here. And what that would mean is, it's kind of interesting, I think, for the club. If you haven't experienced the internet linking and the MARC link, where you can talk to the world and all that, and a couple other rooms which are also available, I could set up that as a temporary situation using my rigs here. And I think it would give a shot in the arm to the club. Now, in thinking about it and doing some research and all that, if we did do that, it would basically obviate the use of the analog repeaters, because it's kind of hard to switch over. So we would sort of do like Marble Newtown does with Echolink. Echolink is a 35-year-old technology that it's not even in the same ballpark as Yaesu Fusion anyway, in my opinion. So we would turn it on at certain times so that if anybody wanted to get on, even on the MARC analog machines, if we can actually get that, that means you could be on 06 and you can link analog to 1.3 and Paoli, which would then link to, it's going to get very complicated, to the DR1X digital repeater on UHF, or go in digital directly. That would come over to my house. My house would pick it up and then stuff it out on the internet at no charge to the club, but it does tie up one of my ports here. But I have 8 of them, so maybe we're okay. So maybe some exciting things for the fall and coming on, and I think that would give a little bit of a shot in the arm for that. No matter what, we'll still have a linked repeater system, including UHF for we had had it in the past, and that's when we had the analog UHF repeater, which went belly up. So when we get that back, we'll have our UHF link at Paoli in some manner. So that's kind of reasonably exciting anyway. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. So I think that's about it. But I did want to comment about the Hamfest. I had my heart in my mouth because with this $1,000 fee for the fire company, I always thought that that would be something, a big hurdle to jump over. I don't know whether it'll continue in the future, but even if we made $2,000 profit, because Ned wants to downsize it. Small government, right, Ned? But anyway, even if we made $2,000 profit after paying the fire company $1,000, I want to point out that $2,000 profit is 100 more members. Okay, so we've been struggling to get members. So obviously, the Hamfest is a real shot in the arm when it comes to the bank account. So the board has already approved some hardware purchases for Darby. I talked about them before. That's coming up to about $4,000, but it won't be too bad because we seem to have a real nice bank balance at the moment. So back to that.
All right, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, I'm really excited about this potential fusion capability. So that means I could just get a regular 2-meter radio and connect into 06 or 13 and then use that to initiate and terminate fusion connections.
Well, it would be basically on, like they do on, if you know anything about Marble Newtown, they turn Echolink on. There's a control operator, and I would be that. I would turn the fusion link on, and not to tie up the repeaters, but we'll probably come up with some, relatively good schedule. But the point is, with the rooms that Yezu is set up, you can talk to the world if you really want to. The America Link, it's not just for America. People check in from all over the world pretty much. So it's kind of interesting to do that. So I think it'll give a shot in the arm for some repeater activity, which is a little bit on the low side. And we'll see how that works out. I don't see a lot of activity on Echolink on Marble Newtown, but that's either here or there.
Usually they get a couple of folks who check in at the nets.
Yeah, that's because it's like pre-arrangement. Yeah.
Right.
But this would be much more of like a CQ basis because you go to this room and we can come up with other rooms also. And that room basically is your window on the world from that point.
I think Ned has a question.
To be honest with you, I didn't even realize that Marple Newtown had Echolink. What's the address?
I don't know. I'm not a member.
They're on a temporary one right now. I think it's through Mike, N3RJV.
Yeah, it is a control operator. That's what you really need. You just can't open this up because there's a lot of problems. So we'll probably do the same thing. I think it's very important that we would have. I don't have to be the only control operator, but I'll certainly start off that way anyway.
Would it be possible to have the control station like kind of a football that could be passed around between people?
Well, you have to be able to hear Paoli, and you have to have internet access. The answer would be yes. That's kind of a good idea. If I go away on vacation, even though I'm trustee of the repeaters, I cross my fingers. But if I'm on travel, there won't be any linking, for example.
Well, isn't the idea that you can hear it if it's on the internet?
Say again?
Isn't the idea that if it's on the internet, you can hear it on the internet? What am I missing?
Well, this is a control station. So that there has to be a gateway between the internet and the repeater.
Right. So in the best of all situations, if we wanted to do that, we could dedicate the UHF repeater, not link it, for example. We could dedicate the UHF repeater on just Fusion, but we have to have internet access at Paoli, which we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be sort of a stopgap measure, but I think it's not unreasonable to give it a try anyway and see what happens if I can pull it off.
If we wanted to have internet access at the repeater site, probably the best option would be some sort of cellular wireless.
Yeah, but then it's $sign time. So I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, there'd be a monthly fee associated with that.
Right.
I just wanted to welcome Bob, W3REZ. He's watching us over on YouTube. So thanks to those joining us over on the other side. All right, so that sounds pretty exciting. Dennis, did you want to say anything about the holiday party?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, my second hat. Wait a minute. Okay. MARC holiday party was canceled last year, of course. We're not sure what the situation is going to be for this December, but I'm going to go ahead and pen it in with Uno's. I think everybody likes that particular venue. And I'll be getting there real soon now if they can even think about having such a thing as a party. They
What
have
date would that be?
traditionally, it would be the
My MARC meeting,
second Saturday.
my ham radio club.
Somebody needs to mute.
Yeah, the second Saturday of December, which is that the 11th, I guess it is.
You can't move it back to the first. That way I wouldn't have to go to my nephew's wedding, can you?
Well, traditionally, we always had it on the second because the first Saturday was our also unscheduled breakfast meetings.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the way that worked out. So we've always
Yeah.
had it on the second. Anyway, can you really be in a holiday mood, Ned, on December 4th to have a holiday party?
I really don't want to go to my nephew's wedding in Florida.
Can always be,
That's fine. I got it down.
Got to watch out. We're on the internet right now.
and you're now recorded.
Yeah. All right. So does anyone have any other committee presentations? All right. So I guess now we'll move on to the main program for this evening. It's kind of an informal topic. So as I said in the email, what I want to do is talk about Field Day and the Ham Fest, so we could talk about how it went this year and maybe some plans for next year, maybe some things we want to do differently, things we want to do better, maybe some things we don't want to do. This will really be a brainstorming session to get some ideas, as well as to talk more generally about some ideas for the upcoming year. Obviously, we're going to have to be flexible because we're still not quite out of the woods yet. But I did want to talk about the possibility of doing a club station for this PA QSO party in October, and maybe get some other ideas for other events that we could potentially do, indoor events, outdoor events, and so on. So should we get started with Field Day?
Sure.
All right, so I'll turn it over to Jim, W3JNF, our able Field Day chair.
Well, as you all know, Field Day was reduced this year. We didn't have the scouts for training. It was kind of scaled back. We did have 18 participants that showed up at various times over the weekend, which, was less than normal, but it's still a good thing. We only had 2 people stay overnight, which is fairly normal. But everything was kind of greatly reduced. The number of QSOs was down quite a bit this year. But let me see here. Our final score, which the paperwork, I submitted the paperwork last week. Our score or our points was 802, which is quite a bit less than in the past, but due to the reduced number of things going on, it was expected. So did anybody have any comments about Field Day? I mean, we had plenty of food and drink. We didn't buy as much as normal.
I think the big thing is not having the struggle with the tri-bander. I don't think really put a dent in anything. I don't think the antenna was the reason why the score went down. I think the wire antennas worked great, tell you the truth.
No, and I agree. And just my opinion on the tri-bander in the future, that thing is a beast to put up. So we may want to consider other options going forward, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that chameleon end-fed is really nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to tune up on the lower bands, but for 40 through 10, it seems to work pretty nicely. And yeah, it only needs one anchor point high up because you can do it as a sloper.
Exactly.
Did we use a counterpose on that this time?
Yes.
I put one on eventually.
We
Yeah,
have a place where we can run inverted V's, right? It's
Yes.
kind of an expensive antenna, but the DXA from can't remember who makes it now. But anyway, that's a 160, 80, and 40 inverted V antenna. If you have one entry, one tower point, that works really well. That's the one I'm running in the backyard.
Because in past years, I think we did an 80-meter dipole as an inverted V.
Yes. And that worked really well.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I think we need to invest in a couple antennas like Dennis says there. The other thing we need to do is,
It's Alpha Delta, big company, Alpha Delta.
oh, okay, yeah, they make good products.
That's a good
We need
antenna.
to come up with a way to keep the antennas up there. The strings or the ropes didn't work real well this year. We couldn't get the G5RV up high enough. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, I mean, we need to do something about that to make it easier to put those up.
The nylon lines have to be replaced like every other year. You can't stay up there 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, a couple of them looked like straw. They were all, they'd fallen apart, but we
That was chafing on the tower, and we have to
Okay.
get better pulleys.
well, we don't have pulleys. That's the problem. That would be ideal if we could get some pulleys up there, but we did replace the lines when we left this year. But hopefully we won't have the issue of not being able to pull it up next year. I mean, they get all tangled and all kinds of stuff, and it's usually a mess, but past years have been okay, but this year was a challenge because it's actually been 2 years that those things were up there, so.
I think Ned has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Ned.
Frankly, I'm thinking what we probably ought to do every year is just get parachute cord, which is fairly cheap. And then, the first thing we do is replace last year's parachute cord. So, you got fresh parachute cord, and then because you can get that stuff at the dollar store. We could, get all we need for $10.
That's being very, dollar wise, but pound foolish. I'm running aircraft grade wire on my crank down, crank over tower, and it's been up for 35 years, but the wire is still in good shape. So that wire is not cheap when it comes to per foot lengths, but once you put it up, it's there forever. So these are like those aircraft cables, if you will.
Crazy idea I had was, can we use a drone to put the lines up over the poles?
Well, why don't we ask the drone master, Mr. Lou? I think he said-
me?
Mr. Drone.
Honestly,
I was calling you.
I've never done payload stuff with a drone, and that's something that I'm not going to claim to be an expert on, but that's certainly something I can research between now and next year. I mean,
Parachute cord's not much of a payload. I mean, and if it was an issue, we could always use fishing line or something just as a leader, and then use that to pull the paracord up.
yeah, I mean, it like my drones are not. I mean, even that paracord probably would have been pushing it, I think. So, yeah, I mean, that's just something, I have some time to research it and figure out the best way to do it. But yeah, right now I just don't know the answer.
Does the fire company have a ladder truck, a big ladder truck that we can get up and put pulleys and stuff like that on the poles?
They do. I don't know. I mean, we're
exercise for the volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of low key with what we get there, but I mean that paracord, I'm not sure how many people even know that's up there.
Right.
We put pulleys up there, it'll be sort of obvious, and I'm not sure. We'd have to talk to them, but yeah, oh yeah, I mean they have a good sized ladder truck because we need it because we have like a 7-story retirement community with a couple of 7-story buildings in that retirement community. So, we needed the big truck, or we need to get one from another municipality. So we got our own. So,
well, if you guys remember, about it was 4 years ago, we used that truck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the previous truck, which they had a lot of problems with, so they got rid of. So we have a new truck.
Okay. And other than that, our score wasn't gigantic. I mean, I think we were in it to have fun. I would have liked to see a few more QSOs, but it is what it is. next year, hopefully we can build it up a little bit more and go from there. And, you
You
know,
did get extra points with the solar, right?
yes, I got those. We got that.
And thanks to Todd for bringing that out, but I'd rather get rid of the beam and get some solar stuff for the future even.
Yeah, that stuff Todd had was very nice, but it's also not cheap, that's for sure.
That's big bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at it online for personal, but not here. So
Well, the only difference between a man and a boy is the price of his toys. So, you know.
I know, but the setup I was looking at was like $3,000, and I said, well, maybe not. So Todd had a small one, and the next size up is like a 1,500, and it's awesome. But we did get extra points for that, and a few other things. So
My wife bought a piece of Tanzanite in Tanzania, and I could have bought a Flex radio for what it cost. So.
oh my God. Wow. Any other questions or comments or suggestions for next year?
Start talking to Todd about getting a bigger solar panel,
There you go.
and we borrow it.
I can almost guarantee you he'll have it next year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He was talking about it through the whole, for the whole field day. So that may come in next year. So.
Yeah. So
But I think we should think about getting rid of the beam, both from storage and from the fact that we never want to go through kind of effort again. I could still see Ron Kenwood up on the roof there trying to hook it up and all that. That's a mess.
Well, I think I've been up there. Bob's been up there. I mean, I totally agree that we should get rid of it, but.
Yeah, it would be the beam and the rotor. I think we could get a good buck for it.
Right.
Well, is how we only had 18 volunteers, and most of them had gray hair and beards. Putting that thing up is for a younger individual club member.
Yes.
Yeah, we might as well get rid of both of the push-up poles as well, if we're going to get rid of the beam.
we have the 6-meter beam as
package,
well.
yeah.
Remember, we also have the 6-meter beam, which goes with the other push-up pole and the second rotor.
Well, why don't we try and unload it on eBay or something, and then we have, zero cost for buying a couple of wire antennas.
That works.
And that alleviates a lot of our storage issues, because that's big stuff that has to be stored.
Yeah, that definitely would eliminate that.
And transporting is a pain too. You need somebody with a van.
They do not fall into the category of portable.
No, not at all. Anyway, other questions, comments, suggestions, criticisms?
We always have good food and eat, so that's the important thing.
Yeah, we did this year too. I like that little restaurant across the street. It's real convenient too. So
I wanted to hear, because I didn't get any feedback on the food at the Ham Fest with that delivery system. Anybody want to comment on that? How'd that work out?
I heard several folks complain there was no breakfast.
Yeah, that was the biggest.
I would have preferred to have breakfast there also.
Okay,
that
now
was the biggest complaint.
in past years, did we actually bring in breakfast? Because I mean, we did the food truck, and they always showed up late. So I mean, when people say no breakfast, I'm struggling to understand what they mean by that.
I think what we
Yeah,
could
they
do.
do. Food
Wanted to
truck.
have breakfast.
The
I
food
think
truck
what we-
had breakfast.
Yeah,
They
but they didn't show up early typically.
right,
No,
right.
they didn't.
Right.
I showed up early. I
So-
wanted breakfast. I didn't get it.
Well, when
Yeah,
the
I mean, that's the thing. Once the food truck showed up, yeah, we had breakfast, but it wasn't there when people got there. Typically, I mean, at least in the last few years, I mean, if we're gonna say breakfast and we're gonna get a food truck to do it, they need to be there for breakfast hours.
Well,
I
wait a
mean,
minute. I'm
Yeah.
going to serve up a slightly alternative view. That is, if we say on the flyer that, we open for regular sales at 8 o'clock and, vendors are welcome at 7, we don't want to have the food before that because we're further encouraging people to get there too goddamn early.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you, but I'm saying that like the last couple of years that we did the food truck, they didn't show up at 8.
Right. And
One
in
who
my
cooked for us was
in
there
my
on time.
particular case, that was my
One who
second
cooked on
breakfast.
site was there on time. It was
I'm sorry, say that, Brian.
vendor that had the pre-made meals. He was the one who showed up late and left early. So we didn't go back to him the next year. The year after that, we had the truck show up and they were making breakfast for a lot of people.
Okay.
We couldn't get them this year. That was the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, we were lucky to get anything this year. It was Bob and I were going back on the phone and forth. It was a struggle just to get that. And Bob came up with the idea of having the deliveries made.
I had a lot of people ask me at the club table, where's an ATM or something? We could put some of that stuff on the flyer, like the Wawa down the road and that kind of stuff. I think that'll all be useful for people if they don't know the area.
Or we should probably then indicate in the flyer whether or not breakfast will be available. You could say lunches only. That way.
Hopefully we're going to go back to a food truck, right? I mean,
Right.
We're going to try.
We're going to try, and then we can basically make it understood that we need breakfast. But
that seemed to scare a lot of the vendors off, because I guess it means it doubles the inventory that they have to pack, and it increases the potential amount of waste if they don't sell the food.
Right.
That seemed to scare off a few of the vendors. Is that right, Bob?
Yes, that's correct. A lot of them, just wanted to do lunch. Don't normally, I guess, some of them didn't normally do breakfast, period. And they weren't interested in, trying something new. And so that was just, the only one that really normally does breakfast is the food truck, the roach coach kind of thing. And but like I say, he got there late, so that didn't really help us out. So.
Well, I can see where the trucks are coming from, but it would be much better if we could find the vans that actually cook the meals on site. And I'm surprised there's only one company in the area that does that.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's more. It's just that we were scrambling to try and find somebody.
It just takes
is that
time
a pun?
to track
Lou,
them
is that a
down.
pun? Lou, is that a pun?
We got the whole thing
making
started
eggs?
late this year anyway. You should do the planning. You should be starting the planning around November. And
I don't think we had anybody to step up to take the Hamfest lead.
Do it.
I don't think anybody in November took the Hamfest lead. Thanks very much to Bob for seeing our pleas.
And we didn't know what the situation was going to look like either until we got well into the spring.
And he's never going to do it again either.
And this is not a comment against the team that this year that put the Hamfest together. I think it was amazing that in that short period of time, it came off as well as it did. Okay. But I thought the purpose of this meeting was to talk about what can we do for next year. And that's the spirit in which my comment was made. Because I think you guys were made, it amazed me.
Yeah. This year was certainly an irregular year, so we were happy with whatever we could get.
On the air,
we did pretty well from what news reports said.
And I'll be honest, I was surprised how many people ordered food, even with the fact that we didn't have breakfast. That went off better than I thought it was going to.
I agree.
Yeah.
I spent some time selling.
And I kind of think that was an impediment as well, that the fact that they had to order food. If we had food available and they just walked up and bought it, I think, there would have been a lot more meals or a lot more sandwiches or whatever sold. If the stuff was already right there, I think a lot of people didn't really want to order, stuff and wait for it to come in. People, were looking for food that they could just go walk up and buy and eat. And they,
Bob, we can't really sell food. There's a lot of health department problems
Yeah.
with doing
Oh, yeah.
anything at all like that.
Yeah, if we were just
I mean,
having-
if we had a caterer, a food truck or whatever, whatever we come up with, they would be able to supply, food right away, and they would have the licensing and all that stuff. So,
Well, the place
that's
that
all I'm
we
saying.
had, the place we had offered to cater on site, but they didn't have the license from the county, and they weren't able to get it in time.
Then that makes a difference for next year. If they
Yeah.
can do the catering, and maybe we can get a little more flexibility in
Yeah.
the menu.
Yep.
Does
Hopefully we'll
anyone know if the fire company has a food truck?
for the Kimberton Fair.
Yeah.
Is that going on this weekend or last weekend, or is that next weekend?
I don't know,
Just
but a
last-
lot of the larger fire companies have a food wagon
I
that
mean,
they can
they've
roll
got a
out.
bunch of them.
Well, actually, most fire companies that I'm familiar with do not have a food wagon. There is actually a fire company in Montgomery County that has a food wagon that for big calls, you can ask for them to respond.
Is that the second responders or whatever it is?
No, I forget what they call themselves,
But in any event, for those who are wondering,
it's the North Penn Fire Company. They actually have a food service that, if you have a
big gas fire.
call that's going for hours and hours and a lot of people are involved, you can request North Penn to bring their food truck.
Okay.
But-
Well, for those who are wondering, right now, the Kimberton Fair is right now through this weekend.
Okay. From what I remember at the Kimberton Fair, I think they had, it was like deep fried Oreos, deep fried Snickers, deep fried butter. So if we
Yeah,
had those, I think we'd have to have an ambulance on standby.
And donuts.
And the fire company has their own food stand that's like always there, don't they? I think.
Yeah, they have,
Yeah, they
sell
have a
hot
food
dogs and
stand.
hamburgers.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that might be a possibility for next year to ask the Kimberton Fire Department if they recommend somebody, if they have someone they partner with. The possibility.
Might want to do that now. Start looking.
We'll wait till after the fair is over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Give them a little
How
while.
come,
to,
if the fair is running, how come they didn't need any help for tickets and whatever? Save a
They haven't
thousand.
done that for a while now. They stopped
Because
doing that.
it's a new regime. The people who run the fair are completely separate from the ones who rent out the facility. At least this is what I was told.
But this was the
And-
first time we had to pay $1,000 too.
Exactly. That's why
Yeah.
we had to pay $1,000 because
Sure.
in the past we would supply people
Yeah,
to
sure.
collect parking, and that would offset the fee. They would waive the fee for our help, and this
Well,
has become not acceptable to the current regime. The current people who are running, all the extra activities of the fire company.
Well, it used to be both tickets and parking, and then the last couple of years it was just parking, and then now it's nothing. So
Right. And actually, 1,000 years ago, we did pay, I think it was $800 for 2 or 3 years. And I remember they came to us and said, hey, we'd rather have your manpower. And we said, we'd rather give you the manpower.
Mhm.
yeah, the number that people used to throw around a lot was $900, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's before my time, so I'm not sure.
No, there was no time before your time.
Well, actually, I date back to the 309 drive-in, so I'm now old. So I shouldn't be climbing up on the roof to put up the beam.
Did
Wasn't that the-
Marconi have a table at that one?
wasn't it?
Did
Man, wasn't
Marconi
it-
have a table at those Hamfest?
And
Yeah.
wasn't it the 611 drive-in?
309 was before 611.
Oh, wow.
309 was 1980 to like 83 or 84. Then they sold the property. We moved to 611.
Okay, a totally separate topic. I want to welcome Dick, K3ITH, who's like half the man he used to be. I was stunned when I saw you at the Hamfest, Dick.
Yeah, I think Bob ZQN had the appropriate comment. He said, "Dick, if you didn't have your call sign hat on, I wouldn't know who you are."
Yeah.
Dick, while we've got you, did you have an update on VE testing?
Sure. We had 7 candidates. Everybody walked away with a new license or upgrade. I did have one predicament that didn't show up until, what's today? Tuesday. It was Sunday night when I got an email. One of the candidates that took his technician license and passed went to check. Of course, Sunday was a week after the test, or 8 days after the test. Went to check to see what his new call letters were. Now, he had a technician license years ago. He let it lapse and knew he had to take at least a technician to get it back. It turned out he renewed his license and forgot that he renewed it. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? I've been a VE for a very long time. In fact, longer than ARRL's been a VEC. And I'd never heard of this one before. So Monday morning, I called the ARRL VEC and happened to get a very nice lady, explained the circumstances. Turned out she's been on vacation and I was the first call back.
Turn it on with
Could
this.
have been nicer, actually.
Go to either
Absolutely
2,
perfect.
6, or
here.
no.
Someone else talking?
Yeah, he's muted now.
Oh, okay.
He's good.
So it turns out they must have picked up on it. And when he told me about it, I looked him up on QRZ. Yes, he is the same name, but a different address. Same city and state, but a different address. So I had him confirm what his current address is and when did he move there. And I passed that along to ARRL. And they said, yeah, he's already licensed. So he didn't do anything with the application. He had a license since 2014 and didn't know it.
Yeah, but he better update his address, otherwise he's in arrears.
Well, he did that Sunday when he looked it up in the FCC database. He also updated it, but Monday morning, of course, it hadn't taken yet. So I felt like saying, but did not. I bit my tongue. I was going to thank him for the $15 donation to the ARRL that he made.
Would have been more interesting if he had not passed the test.
Yeah. Well, he took a general and he grossly missed that. I mean, I've really been encouraging people not to, quote unquote, take the next higher test just to see what it's like. Because if you're not prepared, you don't know what's on the questions. And, you know, it's a waste of everybody's time. And haven't been collecting on pencil and paper the statistics, but in my head, it's close to 85 to 90% fail just to take it on a whim, you know. And one guy said, well,
first they have the one price fits all.
I passed made it by one question. I said, wouldn't you rather have a 90, 95% or 100%?
You know, what do they call a person who graduates last in their medical school class?
They still call him doctor.
Your doctor.
Well, he wasn't
I've
the
had
only
to
one
weed
who
out
had
several
a,
of those too. You know.
Half the people
not
who
the only one that had a mental
have
lab.
that distinction.
No, actually, he becomes one of those 5 doctor lawyers with Klein Inspector.
There you go.
The
Watch out, we're on the internet.
the raffle box contained 3 ticket stubs without any name, address, or phone number on it, and 6 of the wrong sides were put in. They kept the stub and put the blank admission ticket in. I had a half a dozen people ask me which side goes in, and I just said, think about it. They looked at the ticket, and then they put the right one in. And we had about I guess 8 people that they must have left or didn't hear their name because they didn't claim their prize.
And then there was WU3I, who I had no idea what it said on his ticket, but somehow we figured out who it was between, like, what, 4 of us to try and figure out what it said. Like the most ridiculous handwriting I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Bob, was there any feedback from the vendors about the setups and whatever?
No, I didn't really, get too much feedback from the vendors. I guess everybody was happy with, what their tables were and stuff. And we didn't get any, we had the tailgate field set up in plenty of time. So when Jeffrey got there, we didn't get any static from him this year. So that was a good thing. And I guess everybody liked it.
What happened with Norm?
Norm, I guess became dehydrated because of the heat, and apparently his car actually doesn't have air conditioning, so he drove from Allentown. Apparently that's where he lives. Drove all the way from Allentown to the Hamfest site without air conditioning, and then started to set up his stuff, and then he I guess he has several heart issues. He has a pacemaker, and he started to get chest pain, and tried to take some nitroglycerin for it, and that didn't work. And then that's when he felt, he was in trouble. So he got into his friend's car, Goldie. Goldie's car had air conditioning, and so he was sitting in the Goldie's car, and I happened to walk out, and he, waved me over, and he told me he thought he was having a heart attack, and I said, "Well, do you want me to call 911?" And he said, "No." He says, "Go in and tell Goldie and see what Goldie says." So I went in, asked Goldie, and Goldie said, "Yeah, call 911." So that's what happened. That we just called 911, and then the rest is kind of history. And then
Yes, but it was okay because they got a door prize.
he did.
That help for municipal purposes?
All right. Well, good to hear that he's
Well,
okay.
Phoenixville Hospital is just down the road, so that's the good news. We're not exactly in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Actually, I did have one more comment about field day. After most folks left, I fired up FT8 on my radio. That was kind of fun. I actually got tired of chasing after people on phone. So do you think that might be something that would be of interest next year, to have a station that could do FT8? So
Get an antenna, put it up, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the club now has a Signalink USB, thanks to the Hamfest door prizes. Actually, I came into possession of it, but I'm happy to donate it back to the club. And that should be everything that we would need to use one of the IC718s for FT8.
You just need to throw the jumpers on or order the little board that plugs in.
Yeah. So that might be something to try, and we get the 2x multiplier for digital.
And I'd like to see how it works. So there you go.
Yeah, so that would be a demonstration as well. So it could be educational and also points. Because I'll tell you, after 20 meters was dead on phone, I was making contacts for another hour or two after that.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, on phone, it was just totally dead. But you turn to the FT8 frequency, and you can hear them going.
And a mode like that is contest friendly, which is good too.
Yeah. You can't work very rapid pileups. I found I was doing like one contact maybe about every 2 minutes, because you got to wait for the back and forth, waiting for the RR 73 and all of that. So you're not going to rack up huge amounts of points, but you could make 20 to 30 contacts an hour with relatively little effort, because you can just let it call CQ and just check
It
on
does
it.
all the work for you.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's good for like that 4 a.m. when you're barely awake. Let your computer do that. All right. So you've been jumping around quite a bit. Yes. Did anyone have anything else about field day before we close the book on that?
I just want to say one thing. I want to thank everybody that pitched in, but especially Lou, because we wouldn't have had field day if it hadn't been for him coming with his storm chaser van and transporting the material. So thanks to Lou for that. So
My pleasure. You're welcome.
yeah, that worked out
Yeah, I have
great.
a question. I missed the beginning of the conversations. Did we talk about the scouts for next year?
No, we didn't talk about that yet. So Brian, would you be up for the scouts next year?
I'll probably have to get, I'll have to be recertified.
Yeah, I think we
My,
all will. In fact, I'm out of compliance right now because my fingerprints and everything are out of date. So I'll have to do that by the end of the year.
I'm already recertified, so
Yeah, I'll go get
Certified?
recertified.
yeah, certified.
All right, so that should be good. You know, if we have 2 lead instructors and then we have some helpers who can be there, that would certainly do it. I certainly did miss having the scouts this year, but it just seemed like it was too much given
Right.
everything that was
Well, it
going
was
on.
too much on a shorter notice.
Yeah. But
Can-
I
hopefully
mean, long
What
pole
do you have
intent
to
for
do
us
to
is
get
getting,
certified, Jeremy?
getting the people through the, you know, you got to pass the scout test. And unless you've got it from other sources, you need to get the
the youth protection.
youth protection from the state.
And as
Yeah,
far as
I
getting
have
certified
that
as a
through the
merit
Red
badge
Cross.
counselor, there's basically a little application that you fill out. It's not too complicated.
It's not that complicated. It's just you got to go do it. And the offices weren't being staffed this year.
Yeah,
So that was another complication. So we were wise not to attempt it this year.
yeah.
Just a note about the certifications, Dick. You have to get them and submit them through the BSA. I don't think they'll accept your Red Cross. I know it sounds weird, but that's basically the way it is. I work at Elwyn and I have certifications, and the BSA will not accept those either. So it's real simple. It takes you 20 minutes to get.
I have no
3
problem. I've
clearances.
been through this,
Yeah,
many
As long
times.
as you've been
Much-
in state for
Much
10
deeper
years.
background checks too, you know.
yeah. It's real simple. Real simple.
I think if you haven't been in state for 10 years, you have to do a federal fingerprint thing, and that could be a little bit of work because you have to go to a police station to get that done.
37
Well, they do
years,
have they have agencies that'll take your fingerprints for you.
Yeah, the DCIU over in Morton will do it. There's several agencies that do it.
My problem is my age, the fingerprints don't take so well.
Worn off.
They were worn off. I've had my fingerprints taken so much by so many different agencies over the years.
That could be taken several different ways.
Take it in a good way.
All right.
I was moving on to another quick topic before we break. Lou, any feedback on our new mailing list? As you might know, we've changed over our membership mailing list thanks to Lou, but we'll see if there's any bounces now. Any feedback on that, Lou?
Well, I haven't noticed any bounces, but I mean, it's not as obvious with Google Groups because you actually have to go and look. But I certainly haven't noticed any. I was just looking at it today and didn't see any, but I wasn't really looking for that. The only feedback I got, and somebody wanted to actually be able to log into Google Groups, and basically you have to be a Google user to do that. And the other thing is for the people that are using ARRL.net addresses, if they reply from their own email address, Google Groups is going to throw that away unless they give me that address. I can add it.
Yeah. So you have to give your actual address, not the ARRL.net alias.
Right. Unless you're somebody like Dick, because Dick somehow You can send from your ARRL.net address.
Well,
Right.
you've probably got a .org.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I
All right.
No, I don't send from ARRL. I may put it in the header somewhere, but it's still coming from Verizon from the FiOS.
Okay. All right. Well,
We had our EPA SCM SM there, right, section manager. And I got to chat with him a little bit, not exactly, he didn't have anything negative about it. I thought he had a nice location and all that good stuff. So hopefully that added to the ambiance anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to welcome Victor AC3HI, who has joined us via YouTube. Right, and Ned had a request or something.
Okay, I got two things. One, and it's actually a, do we need this? And two, does it even happen with Logbook of the World? Did we have a card checker? And do we need a card checker? Again, that's not my world. I'm out of my wheelhouse, but
I happened to be next to the section manager when someone asked, "Where's the card checker?" And he said
Yeah.
they were signed up but never showed up. I don't know
Okay.
if that's a true story or not. That's what he told me anyway, or told the other guy.
I tried to get at least 6 different card checkers to come to our Hamfest, and none of them would come.
Yeah, this guy had a big stack of cards he wanted checked, and
I think the last time I got a QSL card was about 15 years ago. I'll tell you the truth.
yeah. Okay. And the other thing is, of course, I'm going to make my annual pitch. Can we not encourage people to get there at some ungodly hour of the morning? I'm not going to be heard, but just as important and more likely, can we put an end time on the flyer, like 1 o'clock? This year, it was hot, so people were leaving, but, we've had, years where at 4 and 5 o'clock, they were starting to pack up.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea, I guess.
We should charge more money if they show up before 7 o'clock.
Well, Dennis, I've suggested that as a joke for years, and now I'm saying what we ought to do is if they show up before 7 o'clock, it's $1 a minute that goes to the ARRL Scholarship Fund. Because
people are going to
getting there
no matter
at 5:45
what.
has got to stop. I can't do it anymore.
But let me ask Bob too about tickets. We had a lot of people there a lot early, but we did go around and make sure everybody had tickets, right, Bob? Sellers and tailgaters and all.
Yeah, I got all the tailgaters and all the people on the inside to.
I put Todd on it. Being an ex-Marine, I told him to go out there and beat them up if they don't have a ticket.
Can't call him an ex-Marine because, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Right.
Well, since we're recording, I won't tell you what Marine stands for, having been in the Army. So.
Yeah. Getting back to my earlier point, are we going to say 1 o'clock pack up time?
I think even 1 o'clock is too late, tell you the truth.
Probably noon is
Noon.
more
I think
realistic.
Noon is more like it.
And this year was like 11. Actually,
Yeah,
I was kind of
exactly.
relieved seeing people starting to pull off at 11 a.m. because it was getting hot.
Yeah, right. But again, I'm serious. There have been years where I've been there till 4:30.
Well, I
You know,
think we
One
should
of the
put-
problems is we only had 18 people actually log in for Saturday. We need to get more people out there. I don't know how to do it, but we got, 80 people, 20% show up. We don't even get 20% participation in a meeting.
Yeah, I'd second that because, I tried to rotate people out as, so people didn't have to do the same job for the entire, 5 hours or 6 hours or whatever. But there was just not enough people to rotate in and out. And clearly, we had enough help, but I think everybody was kind of burned out after it was all over, and that's probably, if we can avoid burning people out, then it'd be a whole lot better.
It was a very hot 2 days, and we're lucky we only had one person fold up from it.
Yeah.
Well, this might have been one of the hottest ham fests in quite a while.
Mhm.
I agree with that.
And
Yes.
may have been the hottest day
Yeah,
of the
to me,
year.
I know.
Would be, that
I had
would
a
be
picture.
fitting.
With the new white walls and the improved doors on the venue, it really looked nice, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. And it does stay pretty cool inside there compared to outside.
I think they might, I was hoping that they
Standing
had
next to the
insulated
fan
the
too long,
walls.
Jeremy.
Double.
Fan. Some parts of that building got pretty warm. Where's Dick? Did he
Oh,
leave us?
actually, that brings up another point. Yeah, if it's going to be that hot, can we get a floor fan or a something fan for down by the testing area?
Yeah, it was pretty hot down there. They had a little fan in the going, but it did nothing.
Yeah, we need a serious fan.
I guess the problem is unless they have it on site, someone would have to bring that. I mean, that fan they have there is an enormous thing. You'd need a truck to transport that.
Yeah.
Well, we need something.
Yeah, maybe
Even if
if
it's just
we
a
got,
tabletop. It was pretty hot in that corner.
Yeah.
I know, I was,
A couple of
I
like
found that
dice
extremely
fans
fatiguing.
just to blow air
And,
around.
and I was sitting down most of the time.
Now, here's actually a request that came in by the Facebook. Somebody bought a radio there and it turned out to be a dud, so he was a little bit miffed over that. Would it be possible for us to have a testing station where essentially if someone wants to buy a radio, they could just bring it over, hook it up, and just make sure that it turns on?
Well, yeah, but on what frequencies? You're gonna do,
I think just basic,
what
just have
bands?
a power supply that they could just make sure that it turns on.
And a dummy load, that's,
a dummy load then
Yeah.
too.
A dummy
Yeah,
Because
load,
you'll turn it on and burn it out.
make sure it transmits a dummy load and a power meter.
Well,
I think
there's
that's a
no
great
reason
idea.
why we should definitely do that. That's pretty simple.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. We'll have to see what's actually required in order to do that.
Mhm.
What sort of connectors we need to have, and because that could be something that's useful. If you want to buy a radio, you can bring it over, make sure it powers on, make sure it transmits. And even if we had a ham stick or something, just you could plug it in and make sure that it receives something. Make sure
Yeah,
you
I would be careful with that because
pick up WWV. Or,
something other than a dummy load that has its own risk. But a power supply problem is these companies have every radio I have has a different interface to the battery.
yeah. And the problem is it could open us up to liability because then the seller could say, well, my radio worked. You must have hooked it up to the MARC power supply and that blew it out. So that's a potential issue.
plus another issue with it is it's going to require, it really should require at least one or two MARC members to man that station because you got all that equipment there. You don't want the stuff to walk away and so forth.
Well, something
Yeah,
to-
you know, I just want to bring
I
it
think
over here
it's
to this table, make it easier.
I think it's a great idea.
yeah. Well, something to think
Manpower.
about anyway.
takes manpower.
Yeah.
I know at a ham fest years ago, there was a guy who had a service monitor. He was a radio technician, and that was what he did, was just sat there for most of the ham fest and put different radios on his service monitor and then check them out that way. And but don't know if that's something doable. I think it's probably more doable just to put an extension cord out there and dummy load or something. Keep it real simple, at least to start with.
Let me ask Jeremy about that the feedback. I mean, do we have something, or maybe we should have something even on the flyer about buyer beware or whatever, that kind of stuff?
We do have something on the ticket that says all sales are final. And I explained to the guy that all sales are between the vendor and the buyer. So if anything, if you can reach out to the vendor,
And half the time they don't have any information on the vendor half the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, typically at auctions, they state that everything is as is, where is.
Mhm.
So, that's all you really need to put on the flyer, just everything is as is. So you don't, there's no expectation that anything works.
Yeah, we don't make any money on those sales,
No.
so we don't want to incur any liability.
Yeah.
Well, if we put an extension cord with a power supply and a dummy load on a table outside, I don't think we'd be in any trouble.
Well, you'd have to have dummy loads because I don't think there's one dummy load that covers all frequencies.
Well,
bands.
we would supply one dummy load.
Well, you'd have to have one for the low band, then you'd have to one,
No, any reasonable dummy load these days is like 1 to 1,000 megahertz. No problem.
Exactly.
And
There-
at least up to
Yeah.
440, certainly.
well, I'm thinking of a Cantenna, so okay.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I'm thinking 40 years ago.
Yeah,
That is a
I
bad
have a
idea.
diamond, it's 1 to 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you
I
start
have an
using antennas, you
MFJ
also have the
650
radiation problem.
Mhm.
Dummy load, in theory, doesn't radiate.
Well,
Well, they do, but very little,
Well, yeah, but not enough to worry about.
right.
You don't want to fry the customers.
So you give him a 100-watt light bulb and he can
Here's-
see if
here's
he's putting out or not.
All right. I'm just looking at the clock here, trying to be cognizant of the time. Did anyone have any other comments about the Hamfest or thoughts?
I want to say thanks to all the workers, especially Bob, who, did a great job.
Yeah, and we got to keep inviting that guy who keeps giving us equipment too. So
Yeah.
Here's my,
Yeah,
here's my,
yeah, really,
here's my
that guy's
carcinogenic
amazing.
oil-filled digital dummy load, right? It's an oil-filled thermaline from Bird.
Hmm.
It's probably circa early 50s. Works great.
PCBs? Hmm.
Definitely PCBs, yes.
that's the good
Nothing but
stuff.
the
When you
best.
shake it, you can hear the oil inside.
I also want to thank Rich for doing a great job collecting door prizes for the club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, that was
amazing.
fabulous. That was great.
Thank you. Do what I can. I have to
Yeah.
send out thank you letters to all the suppliers, which I did the last time. So keep the relationship good with them.
Yes,
Yes.
please do.
All right, thanks. All right, so one item that I did want to talk about was the possibility of having a club station for the Pennsylvania QSO party. So it's the weekend of October 10th to 11th, which is Saturday and Sunday. So I'm thinking the idea,
It's actually the 9th.
oh,
That's
9th to
okay.
10th. Yeah, so the genesis of this was at field day. I think late at night, Jim and I were talking about the possibility of identifying another site where we could operate, sort of as a backup to Lower Providence. So I thought we could do the PA QSO party. We could make kind of a mini field day out of it. It's a smaller operating event, but I think maybe a fun one. And since Delaware County is one of the underrepresented counties there, it would kind of behoove us to find a spot in Delco. So two that stand out would be Ridley Creek Park and the place where Marple Newtown works, at Drexel Lodge Park. Those would be two kind of obvious choices. So what I'm trying to do now is gauge
Jim,
RTU
K3 RTU and I go up there a lot.
to Ridley Creek.
There's
or
some nice
Drexel
high
Lodge?
spots.
Yeah.
We've certainly heard stations from all around the world and all around the country.
Now here's a question, maybe a dumb one. Is there electrical power available there?
No, we always operate off battery.
Yeah. Now, are there pavilions that are covered?
Yes.
Tree covered. Yeah, there are
No.
pavilions, but you'd have to rent them.
Yeah, because that would
We
cover
can,
green.
I'd be willing to go investigate whether we could get some. So what day are we talking about? 10th to the 11th?
Weekend, or I think it's the 9th to the 10th. It's October, whatever is in October. It's the Saturday and the Sunday. So I
It's
think it
October
runs from
9th.
about
Yeah,
that would be
it's,
9th and 10th.
9th and 10th.
Now, will we stay overnight?
Yeah.
Because they're gonna wanna know that.
Well, for overnight, the contest actually ends, I think, from about 1 a.m. until about 9 a.m. So it would probably make sense for folks to go home unless they wanted to camp out overnight, if that's allowed.
Well, they have campsites there.
Hmm.
But if you go in as a group, you gotta get it reserved.
Yeah.
So,
Well-
yeah, I need at least a preliminary concept so we know what to ask for.
Now, did they
You want a pavilion, you want to know where we can stay overnight, and we need high ground.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
preferably
we want some
electricity.
nice
We could
trees
cook.
that we could put up an antenna.
Trees
There are plenty
everywhere.
of trees there. That's not an issue.
Just one note about overnight, they lock the gates at night. So you can make arrangements to go in and out, but it's after dusk, the gates are locked. So you,
After a certain time, you're committed to staying overnight.
right. I mean, if there's an emergency, they have provisions, but that's something you should look at too, Brian.
Okay.
Now, do they have electrical power at the campsites?
I don't think so.
'Cause
No.
if we may need a generator, and I don't know whether that's
Well,
allowed.
that's what I have to ask them, if we can run a generator.
Unless we can get Todd to bring his battery set up.
There you go.
That might.
I mean, I have some, I got a 35 amp hour battery. And thanks to the Hamfest, I also have a 15 amp hour one.
Those aren't going
door
to
price.
last long at 100 watts, though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that,
maybe-
those would
Maybe
not
get 2 or
last.
3 hours at 100 watts.
Well, you're not constantly transmitting.
But even if you're transmitting part-time, you're pulling 20 or 30 amps on that when you're transmitting.
Yeah, I don't usually run
At
it.
least
at
20.
100 watts.
At least,
Yeah. So, I mean,
Anyway,
it would run
we
for a
could-
couple hours.
Let's find out what the constraints are. If we can,
Yeah.
can we use it? Can we use a generator? Is there power there? I think
I would
the
think
answer
if
to power
it's
is
a
no.
campsite where people are sleeping, I would think probably no. Or if they allowed
Yeah,
a generator, there'd be quiet hours overnight. But we're
Well,
not
are we going to operate
overnight
overnight?
anyway.
I've camped there many times. It's been a while, but the last time we camped there was probably 8 or 9 years ago, and we were able to use a generator. So
Well,
That was
also,
always good.
are there restroom facilities?
absolutely, yes.
Well, then they probably have outlets there.
Yeah, but you might not be able to use them for anything other than electric razor.
Right.
Unless you set
That's
up.
why
the
you got to
radio
find out
in
what the
bathroom.
constraints are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Brian's going to find out. I mean, we can speculate all night here. So
I think that this would be something fun. It could also be a potential backup in case we can't hold in-person meetings. So this would be like a mid-October, and this could potentially take the place of one of the meetings.
absolutely. That would
And
be-
we'll have to think about the scope too. Do we want to operate the full weekend or maybe just one day if we want to do something more limited? But yeah, we would need to throw a wire, at least one wire antenna up into the trees. So we would need power. So either a generator or maybe Todd's solar setup or just a bunch of batteries if we can't get access to power. We'd want some tables that we can set up the radio. And it would be nice to have a pavilion that's covered just in case we get some rain to get something where we're out.
Well,
of the-
also sun,
and the sun too. I mean, by October, the sun's not as much of an issue, but it can be
There,
Be nice
there
to
are
have some spud guns too to put the antennas up with.
to shoot the antennas up.
You
Yeah.
could always rent a hotel room and stick the wires out the window from the top floor.
there we go. I like that.
Restroom power, room service.
It's really roughing it.
Now,
I mean,
for those-
propagation would be good too by the pool.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't
Throw
think you
some salt in
chlorinated
it.
water.
Yeah, put
Gives
some
you
salt
boost.
in the pool.
Yeah, the hotel manager might object.
Yeah.
I think of some other ideas here. Yeah, this is, I think this could be something fun as kind of a mini field day and also establishing kind of a backup communication site. Because, you know, the idea of field day is supposed to be emergency communication, right? In theory, you're supposed to just show up someplace and set up a station and not, oh, like we know how to do this because we've been here for 20 years, right? So it would bring a little bit of that adventure back. Like, you know, where do we put this antenna? Which tree do we use?
I'm just looking for some fun thing to do.
Yeah. I think
That sounds-
October, the weather should still be pretty good. It's not going to be hot as hell, and it's not going to be, hopefully not too cold either. The worst would be probably some rain.
Or snow.
October 10th is pretty early for snow for us.
Well, this side of the Poconos it is.
Yeah.
I used to
Okay,
live upstate, so I know. We used to have snow from October to May.
Jeremy, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I brought up the operating rules, the operating period from 1600 Zulu, which is noon Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday to midnight Eastern Daylight Time, and then Sunday from 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time to 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Yeah. So it's basically all afternoon and evening Saturday, and then looks like most of the day Sunday, but folks might want to pack up a little early.
Right.
Yes, so we'd probably want to have at least one or two people who would stay overnight. I mean, unless we were going to pack everything up, maybe just leave the antennas and take everything else back.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who've done this before, do they allow multiple stations, or is it one radio and that's it? I didn't see that when I read through the
I've
rules.
never done it.
You know, depending on the level of interest, we might want to have two radios running.
I'm not seeing anything. Okay, multi-operator stations, two or more operators.
It says multi-operator, but is that multi-transmitter, or does that just mean two people take turns operating the same radio? So I think that's what we would be, is we'd be a portable multi-operator station, whatever that class is.
Home station, portable station, set up in a single county. A tear down post, typical would be operation from a camp. Yeah. From a camp cabin, recreational vehicle, or tent. Antennas not restricted. Okay, so yeah. So I don't see why we couldn't have multiple stations. Then again, you know, how many are we going to put up? More than two?
Well, two would be the max if we brought both IC 718s.
Unless we brought, unless we were going to do like 80, 20, and 6 meters or something.
Yeah, we could do VHF as a separate station.
Yeah.
If somebody brought a 2-meter all mode.
Yeah, 991A or something.
Yeah. Then we could have two stations. Maybe we can't operate them simultaneously. All right. So this sounds like something we could certainly plan for. And so Brian, you'd be interested in getting on board with that? And Jim?
Yeah, Jim and I'll ask Jim if he wants to go up to the park with me. And together we'll try to talk to the park ranger.
Yeah, if we can get a couple folks together that would be interested in, you know, doing some scouting out there. I think that would be a pretty good location, and Drexel Lodge could be a backup if Ridley Creek doesn't work out. And I'm sure the Marple Newtown folks know all about that. They're very
Does the park ranger work by himself, Brian?
I don't know. I'm going to find out.
Oh, I was wondering if he was a lone ranger.
No, he's got Tono with him.
If he was in the Beatles, he could be Ringo Ranger.
Ringo Ranger.
I will say this, be very careful when you drive up at Ridley Creek. It's got more potholes than World War battlefields. It is very, very dangerous to drive. There's puddles all over the place, and there's signs of them.
Okay, guys, I've got to drop off.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it is getting a little late, so maybe we should call this to a close. Does anyone have any other remarks for the good of the organization?
I'm going to
Are you
update
into
the,
your board meeting?
Yeah, that'll be a short meeting after this.
Okay.
I'm going to update the calendar on the website saying no meeting in August, right?
Okay, and then yeah, for the September and onward, we'll say TBA.
All right.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Right,
Night.
take
Good night.
care.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so if there's nothing else, I will call this meeting to a close. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Good night.